This webinar series has been so fun for us. This is our fourth in the series, and we still have a lot more to go. We're actually going to be running these until January, and with great topics every month. So it's great to see so many of you guys new and who have joined all the webinars in the past. That tells us we love these dog enthusiasts that want to do better and know better for their dogs. And so that makes us so excited. And, you know, this is for Gold Ribbon Rescue. We are invested in our community and education and helping everybody be the best dog owners they can be. So we partner with C-Spot Behave, and Debbie Puckett is our expert, and I'm going to let her, as I say this every time, because she has all of these credentials, and they deserve to be told properly, and I don't want to butcher that because she's very well educated and knows her stuff, and that's why we're really fortunate that we have Debbie presenting this information for us on a monthly basis. So with that being said, thank you guys for your time tonight. We appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to Debbie with C-Spot Behave and let her take it over.
So I'm in a partnership with Diane Smith, and we are C-Spot Behave. And my background is actually I'm a high school teacher, and that's not really all that different from training dogs, which is kind of funny. I do have a degree or a certificate in not just training dogs, but in dog behavior. It's the psychology or the therapy side of things, and I absolutely adore it. So for me, the dog that wants to sit on the couch and tell me all about what's going on and why they must bark at the fence, that's the dog I want to work with. And Diane and I work together on helping solve problems for dogs when they are encountering difficulties with socialization, enrichment, or whatever's going on in their lives. Both of us met at an organization called Dog Boys, and we've been working together for years. And so we are basically, she's the jock and I'm the nerd, and it works real well for us together. And I absolutely love getting a chance to work with specifically Gold Ribbon Rescue, because you are the most organized, most, I think, connected, and really vision clear group I've seen as far as rescue goes. And so I just want to applaud y'all for what you do for the dogs, how well you work together, and how clear it is that what you're doing is just making a huge change for these dogs. You really are the best out there. So let's talk about some good stuff.
Hey, Debbie, just real quick. I didn't see the thing flash up that you were recording, so I just want to make sure you are.
Thank you, and make me absolutely certain. It did earlier, and yes, we are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good thing. We don't want to miss that part. And so here we go. So the welcome to you. I know that we've all heard these words, socialization and enrichment, and I have on there, do those words really mean what you think they mean? And of course, that's the segue to anyone who's seen Princess Bride. So it's inconceivable that those words would be different, because most people take them at their surface. And so I want to explore the words a little bit and what they really mean to working with your dog. And it kind of sets you up with a good foundation understanding, so it's easier to bring enrichment and socialization in your dog's lives. This isn't going to be training as in giving you a list of things like, here's all the enrichment things you can do for your dog. You can honestly get those from Pinterest or Google or ChatGPT. What it's going to be is a shift in perspective to understand why socialization works and what it does, and the foundations of enrichment. And if you understand the why, then all things kind of come together at that point. It becomes much easier to bring those into your dog's life. So I want to introduce this creature. This is Canis lupus familiaris, and I'm going to say Optimus, which means the best. And so here is a golden retriever. And by scientific definition, your dog is a captive animal. Your dog is kept in a zoo exhibit called your home. And in terms of any ethologist or biologist, having a dog in your home, it really isn't any different than having a farm animal in your home, or with slight difference, having a baboon in your kitchen. And when we consider the life of a dog, most of us don't really think deeply about that, because they're just part of our lives. They're not You know, they're like furniture in the sense that it's something we see all the time that we don't think deeply about. And I want to raise that for you, because from a dog's perspective, as a captive animal, humans have complete and total control over everything the dog does. We choose everything for them. We choose what they're going to eat, when they're going to eat, where they go to the bathroom, when they go to the bathroom, where they sleep, who they socialize with, if they play, even their toys. And dogs have very little choice and agency and opportunity to influence their world. And as a captive animal, that sets up a contract or a relationship with them and us that puts us in a perspective, or a different perspective than just saying, hey, this is my dog. It's actually, this is a sentient, intelligent, emotional, social being that I am 100% responsible for providing for. And we're going to kind of go at it for a little bit from that scientific point. And I'm going to say right now, all of you are zookeepers. And if you're anything like my family, that's true. At one point, I had a hedgehog, 5 rats, 5 pigeons, 3 cats, 7 dogs, and a snake. And if Noah had come by, we probably would have all been able to get on. But I was a zookeeper in that sense. I never thought of myself as a zookeeper in the full sense of being responsible at the level of providing a habitat for my dog. And so I want you to think about that for a second. Here's what I want to think about. You have designed a habitat for your animal, your dog, not just your living room, but also time, the time of day they get things, what they eat, what exercise they receive, what type of affection they receive, or social interactions with other dogs and animals and people. And their world is completely restricted to you. And so as that zookeeper, you can make some really conscious choices and also a lot of unconscious choices. And unfortunately, as a trainer, as somebody who comes in to help people, and especially as a behavior consultant, often I'll come in and look at it from almost that zookeeper perspective. A human-centric habitat is having a breakdown because the humans are looking at a dog and saying their behavior is acting out, when actually what the dog's behavior is a natural species typical behavior like digging. And of course, from a human perspective, that's terrible. You can't dig up my garden. I just put it together, or it's expensive to dig up that, or don't dig out from under the fence. And yet for dogs, digging is a natural thing to do. And so dogs get punished for these natural behaviors because we don't recognize that they not only need to dig, but it might be up to us to provide an opportunity for them to dig. And so as a trainer, I come in and I get, hey, my dog is digging. I don't want them to. I want you to make the dog stop digging. But from an ethologist and zoologist point of view, what I have to think of is that's an unmet need. The dog needs to dig. And why do they have that need? What's happening? Do they need to release energy? Are they bored? Is there something they're going after? Like I have a Jack Russell Terrier. I promise you, if he's digging, there's a critter he's digging after. So he's actually exercising his instinctual need to hunt. And so when I address the training and the need, it isn't, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to stop the digging, which is why a lot of training is punishment-based. We could do a shock collar, which we don't agree with. That's not something I do in my company and as my philosophy. And it's not something Gold Ribbon does. We don't apply punishment in that way, but that's very efficacious. If I don't want him to dig, I could put a shock and he won't dig because I've hurt him. That's not a welfare-based look at the dog. So then I can say, okay, your dog is digging because after observation, it looks like your dog needs more exercise or is frustrated. And this is the way they're expressing it. And so not only do we have to teach them not to dig, but we also have to give them an outlet. So the good news about the fact that your dog is in a habitat that's not really built for them, and that they have behaviors that aren't really built for our habitat at all, is that socialization and enrichment are actually the remedy or the bridge to the breakdown between communication and culture between humans and dogs. So if I have a dog that's digging and they shouldn't, that's actually a socialization problem, but I have an enrichment solution. I'm going to pause. So think about that. If digging as a natural behavior doesn't fit in my household, that's a socialization issue. So they are not doing what should happen in my culture. But I have an enrichment solution. I can give them something else to do that satisfies that need. I'm going to open the floor for questions or comments on that part before we move forward. Any thoughts?
I'll just share that we've had some massive diggers in the past, and we created a digging pit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we basically built a sandbox for the dogs because they were ruining the yard, and that's not always ideal because they were digging around the sprinklers. So we just made a space and buried some toys and things and put sand in there, and that became their digging pit.
And that's it. That's perfect. You gave them an appropriate outlet for that need to be met. You gave them something to do that's appropriate. You can dig here, right?
Right.
That's perfect. Instead of punishing the digging, don't dig ever, don't like it, stop. What you said is, okay, you can dig here, and then I will make sure I can train you to, move you towards that spot I'd like you to dig. And I'm going to make sure it's fun to dig there by putting toys and treasures in it.
Yeah, exactly. And we did have to train. I mean, it wasn't instant. We had to do a little work, but it worked out beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Perfect example of that. You win. I'm going to put a gold star for you. Well done. Any other comments or thoughts before we move on? Cool. Okay. Next here. Ooh, hello. That's me skipping through all the way to the end. That's going to make it really hard to do that screen because you'll be going, what just happened? All right, let me do this. There we go. Ha. Okay, so let's talk about this particular Canis lupus familiaris or familiaris lupus. There we go. That dog. Golden retrievers are so much fun to work with. And I know I'm talking to a bunch of people who are great fans of this particular breed. But one of the things that is neat about golden retrievers is they are so clear in their needs. They don't hide it. They know what they need and they're clear about it. And so when we look at their traits are very obvious. They are friendly. They love to be connected to people. They're eager to please. These are wonderful traits. They have, they're soft-mouthed retrievers. So what do? They carry things around. We know that they are energetic. And if they're adolescents, that goes from saying they're high stamina to they're rowdy. We use that range of descriptions for them. And that they're sensitive. They're lovely dogs. And so those characteristics translate to these needs. And we look at the needs. Those needs can become destructive, or they can be part of the reasons why we love them. So, they need to have contact with you daily, but then they can also be that dog that you're tripping over all the time because they're stuck to you, right? Or the dog that has separation anxiety and is barking or howling or whining when you're gone. So there's two sides of that. And when those socialization and enrichment needs are not met, then you have a lot of the stuff that we talk about when the Goldens are either overstimulated or understimulated. When they become destructive, when they're chewing objects or they're pacing, and that they start becoming shut down and like I said, rowdy. So they have those two ranges. The thing about their needs and why they're such a great breed is their needs are not complicated. They really just want social connection with people. They want to have things to do. They want to carry things in their mouths. That's definitely something they need. And we can meet those needs fairly easily. So I want to look at the table that says high stamina, which is the one up from the bottom. And so if you think about a golden retriever, the fact that they have high stamina means they have high energy and they last for a long time. And so if that particular dog is not getting exercise, and so now they're restless and they're fence running and they're barking and they can't calm down and they jump on you, those needs can be easily met by doing some depression walks or compression walks, which are, long leash, a long time where you go slowly and let them sniff and let them really take in their environment. So you're not trying to burn energy, even though they're high stamina dogs. You're trying to give them a chance to settle into and get that energy out in a regulated way. And those of us who've met before, we've talked about the polyvagal system and getting system regulated. So that's an easy way to bring a dog that is restless and barking and stressed back down to center. So if you scan this, the idea of bringing the dog into a healthy place isn't very difficult. And that's all this enrichment stuff. And in fact, on this chart, there's a lot of socialization stuff too. The contact with you, the fact that your dog wakes you up and, pants in your face in the morning, and that first contact with you, that's a socialization need. But also taking a walk in a new place and encountering new items, new things, that's also socialization. So we're going to distinguish those particular activities as either socialization or enrichment. Those things that you can do, and you can kind of have a grasp for and make a list and have them be a menu that you can do when you're starting to get frustrated with your dog. So socialization and enrichment work together, but we're going to talk about them as separate kind of wings or branches of a tree. I'm talking about socialization first. I have on here, Mama called it good manners. I don't know if all of you are from Texas or the South, but I grew up in East Texas, and I grew up with a family where socialization meant you were learning to be somebody who was acceptable to society. The whole idea of we can take you somewhere, we can't take you anywhere. And that's a little bit of what I want to talk about with the term of socialization. Most people think that socialization means social, means puppies getting with other puppies and learning how to like dogs, taking dogs to the dog park so they have time to have dog friends, giving dog a birthday party so they're hanging out with other dog friends. And that's actually not what socialization is at all. It's a tiny piece of it. It means actually adapting, or socializing is becoming adjusted to the human culture and human world. And so a dog that is well socialized adjusts to novelty because there's a lot of new stuff in the human world. They adjust to human culture, which means the things we do like music and all the noise of the human world, but they also adjust to human spaces, which are smelly and sometimes loud and sometimes confining and all that other stuff. And so when people come to me and say, I really want to socialize my dog, I can almost guarantee you what the next thing they're going to say is, I want to take them to the dog park. And then we have a conversation about socializing your dog actually means preparing your dog to be able to handle being okay in many different contexts and with lots of different objects and different kinds of people, so they can just like hang with everyday human life. So you don't need to throw your dog a birthday party. That's kind of at the bottom. What you need to do is help your dog feel safe in this world that we're in. And then you have socialized your dog. Does that make sense? I know that the ground or the root of the word social kind of sets us up to think it is about parties. It is about going to the dog park. All right. I like all these pictures on the side. I did sneak in 2 non-golden retrievers. It's okay. They're honorary for the time. But think about what it takes to socialize dogs to do these things, to be able to ride in a car and wear sunglasses, or to sit and listen to a kid read a story in a library. That takes a lot to overcome the dog's natural drives, natural inclinations to be able to do these things. Imagine a dog on an elevator, a small enclosed space that moves. That's socialization, prepping for them to understand, you're going to be fine if they if they follow you into this space. Okay. The other thing I want to bring up is that socialization itself is actually, it's a verb. I know it's not. I know someone's going to say that's not true. Socialization is not an actual verb. I know it's not, but I want you to think about it as a verb. In other words, it is an ongoing lifetime activity for your dog because they're always going to encounter new things. And so the more confident and stable and calm and bonded to you your dog is, the better they handle something new. And your role as their keeper is to introduce these novel things in a way that they can manage that new thing and handle the emotions that arise, and then can learn to accept it. So let's think about something really new. For me, it's coming up, Halloween decorations out in the neighborhood when you're going to take your dog on a walk. I know that taking your dog on a walk at Halloween goes from this is my, great neighborhood to my dog going, what the heck is that, regularly. And so socializing your dog to your neighborhood in Halloween would be recognizing a week or so before decorations start coming up and watching, okay, when are they coming up? And then how do I introduce my dog? And how do I give my dog the distance they need to address those scary things? But also, how much time or exposure do I need to give them? So you would make a plan. I'm going to go on my normal route. I'm going to bring some pretty good treats so I can help my dog overcome some things that are scary. We're going to stop a far distance from a new scary costume or new scary statue or lights or whatever it is that's going to get their attention. I'm going to let my dog observe it at their speed. I'm going to let them move away if they need to. I'm going to only really observe it for a short time. And when my dog gives me the indication that they would like to move away, I will. But if they show curiosity, I'm going to reward them for that and give them treats and praise and structure to move forward. And then when it's time, they're kind of good, we're going to go home. We're going to keep it short and low pressure. We're not going to toss them in the pool and go out only on Halloween night and run the gauntlet of all the kids in costumes and all the stuff going on. We're going to go slow. Okay? That is socialization. That is socialization as a verb. Okay. Like I said, I grew up in East Texas. I learned to swim the East Texas way. Someone tossed me in the pool. That's not the best way to do socialization. And when we're talking about socialization with dogs or people, this goes the same way. You take your time, you observe from a distance, give the dog an opportunity to move forward if they would like to. And if they show curiosity, they get praise. If they would like to move back, they're allowed to do so. You're going to reduce the pressure. You're going to make sure the person isn't coming in and coming to pet them if they're not willing to have that interaction yet. And you're going to monitor their body language. So you're not going to go to a dog park the very first time. And I'm going to, as a trainer, you're not going to go to a dog park ever, but you're not going to introduce your dog to a new dog and say, oh, I'll just let that dog correct my dog. They'll work it out. That's not socialization. That would be much like sending you over to a completely foreign culture and you accidentally offend somebody and you have zero idea of what's happening. And now you're in conflict. So that's another type of socialization, understanding the culture you're in. I think this chart helps, but if you really think about it this way, is if you have ever been introduced to something that was weird or new and it wasn't done in a way that was kind, then that's probably what your dog experiences with novelty if they don't have the support. However, if you've been introduced to something that was new and it was done kindly, you can picture that too. I do have a dog that not my personal dog, but that was very afraid of thresholds, would not go through thresholds that we worked with. So going in and out a door of any kind was very scary. And so we picked the threshold in the house that they had decided they could go through. And by helping that become a threshold that they like to pass through rewards and praise and making it very soft and easy and gentle, we could actually take that experience and turn the other thresholds in the house to being softer experiences by doing things like we used scent and made all the thresholds have the same smell. We used lavender. We actually painted all the door jambs in the house the same color because the house owner was willing to do that. So suddenly they all looked the same. We changed the substrate. So she had carpet in the one threshold that she enjoyed, that the dog would like to go through. We had carpeting. So we put little carpets at each threshold. And so as we made each threshold softer and less novel, the dog could accept it. So novelty can increase stress. And when you reduce novelty, your dog is managing better. So if your dog is showing distress around novelty, you can reduce that by making it less novel, or you can help them by socializing them to the novelty. So you can go either direction with that. Any stories or thoughts around novelty with your dog? Anybody have a story about your dog reacting to something new? Hi, Rox. Yeah, go for it.
Those are all amazing ideas at home. Could you share, for instance, when you're out with your dog at a store with the automatic doors?
Oof.
Sometimes my dog gets a little spooked with the door. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we polled the audience, you would be in a very big group. Because those automatic doors are weird because they move on their own. Dogs don't know what to do with that. Honestly, letting the dog observe from a distance is one of the best things you can do every time you go near one of those automatic doors. So if you think about it, we make an assumption like, okay, you successfully went through one of those doors. Now we've got it. We can forever go through the doors. We're going to be fine, right? But for every dog, or for most dogs, every door is a new door. So the novelty, intensity is high. So stop, give them time to observe and watch people go in and out the door. The other is, if they're showing hesitance, you're watching the body language and they don't want to go through the door, then you back up and give them option to not. And as soon as they see that you're going to go, well, okay, baby, we're not going to try it right now. Let's give you some time. And you reward the retreat instead of rewarding moving forward. Like, I'm luring you into the door. Sometimes dogs get suspicious about that. You actually reward the retreat. They will feel a little bit more courageous at that point. The other thing you can do, if you go to places like PetSmart and you go in, you have two people. You need someone to go in and say, hey, listen, my dog is afraid of the door. Can you leave it open? Can you mark it so it doesn't close for a minute? And what you do is you practice having your dog going in and out with it not moving. And then you go in and out with it moving. Most Tomlinsons, if they have an automatic door, there's a couple that do, and PetSmart and Petco, they will lock the doors open for you if it's not 3,000 degrees outside. So you can practice that way too. Or you can go have a friend go stand in the door and have it not close. But some places you have to try it. Some places the door alarm will go off. That'd be great. Your dog will be halfway through the door and that, you don't want that to happen. So test the door, okay? You don't want your dog to be like, I knew it. But that, it really is. It all goes back to take it slow, test it out, see how you can reduce what is that makes it scary. For some dogs, it's their own reflection on the door, and then the reflection moves. And they're like, what's that? So I have before gone up and said, do you mind if I tape this piece of paper here for just a minute? And then dog comes up, doesn't see the reflection, they go through the door. And we practice that a couple times. Pet stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, those guys are all amazing. If you say, I'm training my dog, do you mind if I do this? And I've never had any one of those stores say no. They are usually thrilled to do it. In fact, they're like, they'll stop working and come over and watch. And sometimes I have to say, the dog's afraid of people, do you mind? It's therapy for them to have the dog pet them, and back and forth. But sometimes I have to say, hey guys, I just need the space. But they're wonderful about that. So there's just some ideas for you, Rox. And if you are running into that, give me a holler and I can work with you more specifically.
Thank you.
Great question. Okay. Yeah, great. I love that question. Anybody else? All righty.
I will.
Oh yeah, go.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
I've been volunteering with Children Rescue over 10 years, and honestly, y'all are the best resource that we have gotten as far as
Yay.
information for since I've been volunteering. And I think the most important thing to remember is that you're giving the perspective of what the dog sees, what the dog feels, and what the dog
Yeah.
expects, or and not what the owner or foster or that is so important, because
Yeah.
we just see it from a human standpoint. And so I think it's great. We've had several golden retrievers that have resource carding to just been abused in the past, all the things. And but I
Yeah.
just want to say I appreciate you
Thank
giving
you
the
so much.
perspective from the dog. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely. And some people think I'm nuts because I'll go in their house and crawl around their house. And they're like, what are you doing on the
Well,
ground? I'm looking at the perspective, right? And
I am the dog.
yeah, exactly. And who I learned that from was Temple Grandin. If you're familiar with her, she's phenomenal. And she says lots of books about animals and how the animal brain works. And she was a huge inspiration for me. So if you see any of her writings, they're really worth it, about understanding the human or the animal mind. And she's also an advocate for understanding the autistic mind too. So thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Of
Yeah.
course. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for everything.
Lovely.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about Of course, my computer froze a little bit. There we go. Oh, no, not yet. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yes, that. Okay. I purposefully did not adorn this slide so that it would be very clear. Your dog does not need friends, but you're going to do it anyway. This is from a trainer perspective now. We really, really, really hear it in America that everybody wants their dog to have dog friends and go to dog parties. And I have friends in Europe, and I work with an organization in Norway, and the Europeans think we're nuts. Dog restaurants and dog birthday parties and dog daycare and dog parks that dogs all get together. Dogs, and I've said this before in other webinars, that dogs are engineered. They are animals that we have really worked with and created their genetic patterns and their all of their traits and characteristics for us, and especially for us as companions. And yes, there are lots of dogs that are out there that love being around other dogs, but that's not a primary need for them. They have a social need, and their primary social need is us. And so when people are brand new owners or brand new fosters, what I hear a lot is, I've got to get my dog to have friends. I need them to meet other dogs. I need them to get to the dog park. And I have a hard time convincing people that it isn't a primary need. And for a lot of dogs, they really don't want to be there. And if you ever go to a dog park just to go observe, it's interesting to see how many of the dogs like sit on the periphery or go hang out with mom or dad because they don't want to be there. And so I'm going to amend that statement as your dog doesn't need dog friends, and some dogs like dog friends. So when we're talking about the social part of socialization, I'm going to address the dog park and friends here in this section. So I don't hate dog parks, by the way. Just so you know, I do actually take one of my 4 dogs to a dog park. He loves them, but the other dogs hate it. So, I just have to see which dog is which. But there's something I want to challenge you with, is that the concept of the dog park is actually counter to what dogs who live by themselves, don't live with humans, who live in urban situations or suburban situations in other parts of the world. They don't do this. They don't hang out together. Most dogs that aren't living in households either pair up to have litters of puppies, and once the couple have done what they need to have puppies, they split. Papa doesn't stick around, and they're solitary. They tend to sometimes interact, but they are not group animals. They're not pack animals. Wolves are pack animals. And so the modern, mostly American, urban pressure to have our dogs play in social groups is something that we have to really rethink. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. We need to do it well and thoughtfully and safely. So here's what most people, when they're talking about dog park, that looks like fun. I think my dog's going to get extra exercise, which means I'm not having to exercise them. And this is funny because sometimes you go to a dog park and there'll be all these people sitting around looking at their phones, and the dogs are going, it's like a rugby scrum around a dog park. The adults are not paying attention. Yes, they're getting exercise, but sometimes they're getting exhausted from the stress, not the actual exercise. You expect them to have social play, and sometimes what you're getting is ganging up on each other. You're getting reactivity. And here's the sad thing. I do have clients where their dogs started not reactive, and gradually over time at the dog park, they became reactive because of other rude dogs or situations where they felt unsafe. And that transition is a sad one, because then be reactive on walks, not just in the dog park. We think also they might get manners, like they'll learn how to behave better with other dogs. And what happens then is you end up with them rehearsing over again the thing that is not working well for them, but then they also might go back into the bullying or reactivity. They do something rude, another dog corrects them, and it turns into a fight. We think they're going to get a chance to run without at least have a wonderful time. And unfortunately, that they do get to do that. But if they're in an enclosed space, they can get trapped in a corner or by the door and not be able to get away from dogs that might be bullying them. That's the kind of the sad side. There is a medical issue with dog parks in that the substrate, the stuff they're running on, usually doesn't get cleaned up or cleaned off. And so there's parasites, and they can pick up other lovely diseases. That's unfortunate. There's also medical liability if your dog bites somebody or gets in a fight and hurts the other dogs. There's all those things. But put those aside, what can be good at a dog park is if your dog has an excellent recall, your dog doesn't get over aroused, and your dog is dog selective and really will leave when you ask them to. Your dog could be enjoying that dog park, and then you have to be selective about what's going on and whether or not you're going to stay there if things start getting weird. So the one dog I do take to the dog park, he is the goofiest, happy-go-luckiest dog. And he's like the kid that's like, hi, you want to play? Like the other dogs. And he's sweet, and they play with him. And he comes when I ask him to leave. And if there's ever a scuffle, he comes to me like, can we go now? He doesn't want anything to do with it. So he's a good dog for that. So I want you to weigh the risks. I also want you to check in and see, is your dog by profile the right dog in a dog park? And does your dog love it? It makes me sad to see dogs at dog parks where they're so stressed and they're not enjoying it. So don't feel obligated to take your dog to that kind of socializing if it's not something that they enjoy. There are lots. Oh, go ahead. I heard someone clicking. Yep, go for it.
I was just going to say, that topic is not just the dog park, but that we encounter so much, remembering you have your trainer hat on and I have the rescue hat, not just the golden retriever owner, but the expectation is so much that golden retrievers are the social butterfly of the dog world.
True.
And that they love everybody, love everything, and want to do all the things. And so, and that's in part why we love them, because in general, they are that. But coming on the rescue side, they don't come in that way.
Right. And often they come in with trauma.
Yes.
And interacting with other dogs is already kind of poisoned for them, unfortunately. And it's sad.
And many of them have literally never left a backyard.
Oh, so sad.
And so that's why some of that, like, we don't allow people to take their fosters to dog parks. Like we don't promote dog parks. Not saying that there aren't some great opportunities there, but not while we're still getting to know the dogs and understand where they came from.
Absolutely. And as a trainer that helps develop puppies into healthy adults from that perspective, I don't at all recommend you take a dog to a dog park that is developing. Don't take a puppy of any kind. And the only reason why I take this dog to a dog park is he came that way. My other dogs, I've never introduced them. So I vote against them if I could all the time. And there are alternatives. You don't have to do it this way. You can offer your dog really safe social experiences with other dogs, and they're not expensive, and they actually are a lot less stressful for you and them. So the first thing I want to offer is looking at something called Sniff Spot. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to go to the dog park because I want a large enclosed space. I want my dog to be able to run, and my yard is very small. Or, for some people, I know that Gold Ribbon requires a yard, but some people live in apartments and they need a yard for their dog. Sniff Spot's beautiful. You can actually rent by the hour and have a big space, a nice yard, et cetera, and your dog gets a chance to run. It's great. Sometimes, and I do this with my business partner, she has a wonderful dog, we will do a sniff spot for our two dogs who know each other well, and they get to go play in a sniff spot together. So because they are known dogs, I know that they have their vaccinations. I know the behavior. I know that Diane's going to watch what's going on. We know how to monitor. So that goes into structured play dates. Finding other people, introducing the two dogs in a really safe way. And as a trainer, I can show you how to do that. But you end up with play dates that your dogs get along with. That's not bad. And I know Michelle is going to pop in and say, not if you're fostering. So that's not a foster thing. Once it's your own dog, you can do that. Decompression walks are probably my favorite because you're giving your dog an opportunity to walk without the purpose of you getting exercise. That walk is not for you. I'm going to go on a walk and take my dog. Walk is for the dog. It's the opportunity for the dog to get away, a long leash if they can do that, and go sniff and just kind of meditate and walk and sniff and enjoy. It's a beautiful thing. And I actually, in working with some dogs that had some reactivity, one of the first things I will do is put a long line on the dog and work in a field, and the dog relaxes on a longer leash and is less stressed than when they're on the shorter leash. So that's a remedy if you're having a stressed out dog. Don't do that unless you've worked with somebody who knows how to teach you on a long leash, because sometimes that can be really rough on leverage, but it's a really neat thing to watch a dog relax. Parallel walks, that means taking two dogs walking, but they're at like a whole street side apart, one on each side of the sidewalk, and they're walking. So they see the other dog, but they're not interacting. It helps them kind of bring their energy about the other dog down. They get used to seeing other dogs, and they get exposure at a safe distance. So that is a good way to begin socializing a dog. So there's all kinds of cool things. But one of the things I want you to remember is that your dog's best friend, top-notch, first person that they want to be social with is you. And so when you take your dog out, remember that's where they'd rather be. They want to be with you paying attention to them and enjoying time with them. And any other social connection is just extra. So I guess it's great to have a number one fan, remember that. That's what they would rather have. And I love this little guy. Go ahead.
I was just reading an article yesterday or this morning about in Germany. They said that, Europe, as you said, Europe does things very differently than we do with dogs. But they said you don't even see people using a 4 or 6 foot leash. Everybody uses 10-foot plus long lines, and
Absolutely.
Dogs are just really relaxed and happy. And they don't use prong collars or shock collars either over there. But they don't use the short leashes, and it does make a difference. I agree with you. I mean, you have to know what you're doing to put a dog on a long line.
Yeah. And
it doesn't work in every environment, but there is something to be said with how the Europeans do it.
Yep, absolutely. And that 10-foot leash there are two things. Dogs really don't want to be right next to you when they're going to the bathroom, no more than you want to be right next to them when they're going to the bathroom. So longer leash is nice for that. It also gives them less stress. A very long leash has some problems with, like, you can get your hands burned if they zip and if they get stressed. So don't put a dog that's going to pull you on a real long leash. There's something to be said for watching your dog be on a long line, just taking their time sniffing. It's actually really calming for you too. But when you take your dog for a walk for your health, Europeans are like, that's your walk. That's not your walking your dog. That's your walk. When you walk your dog, you do things for the dog wants to do. And Americans don't really see it that way. They try to do the 2 for 1. But I have noticed in this particular group, Michelle, when I've talked to people in Gold Ribbon Rescue, most of y'all are out there for your dog, which I think is really special. All right. Enrichment. Enrichment, I really love talking about. I want to talk about the history of the term, and really it means a dog's got a dog. Like what a dog does, they have to do. And enrichment's interesting because it came out of caretaking and zookeeping as a term. And it actually is poorly named because it makes us think of something. It makes us think that enrichment is extra. It's like you're enriching something, you're adding on, right? So dessert is rich, so it's enrichment. But actually, it's poorly named because enrichment is the main need of an organism aside from physiological. So, and we need to rename it. It is how they stay mentally healthy and emotionally healthy. So for some reason in the 70s, when they started rethinking zookeeping, not just on the habitat construction. I don't know if you remember in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, when the San Diego Zoo had this progressive epiphany of creating habitats that were as close to the natural habitat to the animal as could be. Animals went from, concrete and steel enclosures with glass to places that look like where they live. That's when enrichment came in too. Instead of just, lying around and getting their meals, the zookeepers began helping animals do what comes naturally, helping them do their species specific behavior. So things like instead of having sloths in cages, they had trees for them to climb. It seems so obvious from this perspective. From 2025, it's like, yeah, that's so clear, but it was labeled enrich. Let's enrich these animals' lives. And now from this perspective, when I say enrichment, pet owners think, oh yeah, like a Kong, an extra thing to give them, like dessert. And it's like, no, they don't know. What we really mean is your dog's day must have this in it for your dog to have a day that meets the minimum welfare requirement. That's a totally different perspective on it. If you were zookeeping today and you were taking it, checking off all the things you had to do, water, check, appropriate diet, check, etc., and you didn't have a enrichment item or activity, you would have been considered negligent to that creature that you're taking care of. And I when I really discovered that and learned that, it took me back a bit. Because I grew up, we had dogs, and dogs just did what you did that day. They were your invisible sidekick. You didn't think about their schedule for the day. What is their schedule? Well, I get up, I feed them, they go out and go potty, and they hang out with me. That's their schedule. And so when we talk about enrichment now for their health, there are two things. We're taking all this natural behavior like digging. We'll go back to digging. Dogs need to dig. So I have to figure out how I'm going to give them that. Now, not all dogs want to dig. So that's the difference. Like none of my dogs, thank God, knock on wood, don't want to dig. I'm lucky there. So I don't have to set up a digging thing for them. However, I found out that if I give them an Amazon box with paper in it and put a little kibble, they'll shred. They love shredding. So that's a natural behavior they're like. They need to do one of these things to keep their brains healthy. And so I have to put that into their day. I can put others, I can trade them out. They don't have to do everything that is enriching, but they need to do something enriching. The backside of that is you do enrichment to prevent the other bad behaviors that we're seeing. And I'm calling it bad as in from human perspective, but it's, boredom. I know that when my very large Great Dane Rottweiler mix foster right now is bored, something from the kitchen counter is going to experience a miserable death. I know that's going to happen when he's bored. So I have to give him things to do and keep the counters clean. They're going to experience frustration, and they're going to experience something called learned helplessness, is when they kind of give up. And you see that a lot. I know, Michelle, when you've got ones coming in that have had very little interaction, they've got, been stuck in a backyard forever. Learned helplessness is that shut down dog. So without enrichment, you get a dog that isn't really connected to their environment or to their people. So two sides of that coin is enrichment is a need, and without it, the dog breaks down. Cool. Interesting fact for you is that according to ethology, which is the study of, I guess the way to put it would be like animal culture, what animals do, wild dogs spend 70 to 90% of their time in a 24-hour period engaged in enrichment. They're either sleeping or doing enrichment. So if they're awake, only 20 to 10% is doing something else. They're napping. Okay. Because they're seeking their food, they're foraging, that's enriching. My dogs don't have to forage. They get stuck, they get food given to them. Now, if I want to make it enriching, I can do a food scatter on the floor. They love that. Okay. So we can convert a lot of stuff we're already doing to enriching things. I have a question for all of you out there. Who decides if something is enriching or if something is enrichment? And I'm welcoming anybody to jump in and wrangle with that question. Who is it that decides if something, an activity or an item is enriching? What do you think, Michelle?
The dog.
Bingo. So, and they've proven that to me. I'll bring home a puzzle. I got a puzzle for the dog. The dog looks at it and goes, eh. So that's not all that enriching, right? So I have to choose things that my dogs find enriching. So when we go through the discussion about enrichment, I want you to keep in mind, you really kind of need to do it. Yeah, my dog's not like Kong either, Roxy, not at all. You do like a Pepsi and Coke taste test. If you're as old as I am, you know what that is. And if you figure out what does my dog find enriching, which is really going to help, because when you get online and you say, give me a list of enrichment things, you'll get an enormous list of things you can do to provide enrichment to your dog, and it's overwhelming. So just take a little list and do a test. Do you like this or do you like that? And I don't know if you've seen these dogs on YouTube. They have two Goldens that the owner have them try foods out. Do you like zucchini? And they, taste test them. It's really cute. You're going to do that. Try out things. I forgot to put this in resources, but I'll remember it. There's a daycare down here that does rental on enrichment items where you can try them out before you go buy them, which is really cool. So I'll remember to give you that information, Michelle, because they do sanitize them. So you're not going to get something gross when you pick them up. But she has a huge library of enrichment items. So you can try and see what's enriching to your dog. I don't tend to buy enrichment items. Most of the stuff is around the house that they find enriching. And unfortunately, Amazon boxes are at the top of our enrichment list in our house. Shredding those things makes everybody happy. All right, let's move forward. This is generic natural dog behavior. It's not specific to golden retrievers, but if on the far left column, we're looking at these are things that canids, dogs need to do. They love to play and wrestle. They need that. Actually helps them with a lot of, thanks, Mona. Amazon boxes for the win. But they love to play. They like to bark. They like to scavenge. They like zoomies. These are all things that they have to do to be healthy dogs. And we can come at those from some pretty unique perspectives to give them that outlet. And one of the ones I want to point out is protective behavior, because I get called in a lot regarding protective behavior. My dog is, barking at the windows or not letting guests in or jumping, it's concerning. And so we can do something that it's not only called enrichment, but the flip side of enrichment is management as well. So I can say, all right, why don't we put like a window film on this window that they like to bark at? And then we give them something that keeps their brain busy, that helps, right? You wouldn't think that window film and muzzles are enrichment, but anything that actually alters the habitat so that their behavior is calmer, so that they can reduce stress and cope better, still qualifies as enrichment. It also qualifies a little bit a socialization because they're adapting to the habitat better. So I wanted to bring that up. But if you look at this list, this is all pretty logical. And so we take this term that seems kind of out of grasp, but really enrichment means think about what your dog is doing and give them an outlet that is close to that, but doesn't cross the line into what's acceptable to you in your household. So I don't want my dog to chew on my books, which is what my foster dog would do. You would select a book from the bookshelf and shred it, which was lovely. So we worked on shredding boxes instead. He didn't do that naturally, but we worked on do this instead, and it's more rewarding. And so I could offer that to get his need of shredding, out. Yeah, go Kathy, talk. We need you.
So I do Amazon boxes.
Yay.
The dogs love Amazon. My one dog, the other dog doesn't care. But you've heard so many people say if you let them do that, then they're going to chew up, anything else that looks similar. I haven't had that experience, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think the people that have had that experience have a dog that is chewing out of frustration and is a dysregulated dog. And so you haven't addressed the frustration problem or the dysregulation problem. And so they're chewing out of that. So they go and pick other items. So you have to go, oh, this dog is stressed. It's not about the box.
Right.
So then we have to address, since doing the boxes is not really taking care of their stress, let's look at what's causing the stress. Let's look at how we can reduce the stress, and let's see what we can do to offer them additional outlets for that stress.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I find that if the dog is fairly regulated, they won't go shopping. They won't go and try to
I
get
can
other
have
things.
a box.
Yeah.
I can have a box in the, by the front door that I've brought in but haven't opened yet.
Yeah.
And he won't touch it. But once I empty it and hand it to him, then he
Mhm.
knows it's his and all
Game's
bets are
on.
off.
Yeah, game's on. Exactly. And that, the dogs they know when they're allowed to have it. I think the scent changes, they know the interaction with you. But I think a dog that is stressed or dysregulated, then either the temptation is too high or they're way too frustrated, or I just need to get this out. And that overrides it. But you aren't training them to destroy your house.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Rocks. Oh, and Lena, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I'll get you.
Today. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Rocks, go first, and then I'll get you, Lena.
Okay. So you guys literally just give them an empty Amazon box and they go to town on it?
Some dogs do. I have one that loves the empty boxes, and I have one that I use like the packing paper that comes with it. I'll put kibble in the paper and wrinkle it up. And so they go in and they dive after the kibble, they shred the paper, and then the box must die.
Yeah.
I don't know why. They just, box must die. And they do it with such glee.
Do you remove the tape on it?
Nope.
No.
You just say
the paper.
I do watch to make sure they're not going to swallow any pieces before we offer this. Yes.
Yes, this is supervised. And I usually, the paper tape, I don't worry about. The plastic tape, I watch real closely. Yeah, very closely. And I make sure if the box has staples or any of that stuff, and I've already gone over the box to make sure it's safe. So yeah, if you do all the toddler check, can it hurt my dog? Yeah, do all that stuff. Lena, gotcha.
So on that topic, we have BarkBox subscription, and one of our dogs finds the box just as exciting as the toys.
Of course.
But we find him trying to eat it. Like he'll shred it and play with it, but then he's like chewing it and swallowing it. Do other dogs do that, or do you just take it away at that point?
Yes, some do. And I think it's just the chewing factor. So what you can do is you can, when they're allowed to shred, when they start to get to the point to chew, just take it, they're going to actually chewing instead of ripping it apart, just take it away and offer them something from the BarkBox that is chewable. Okay. So it's like you can shred this, but if you start to chew, I'm going to trade it for something else. And just do it. Don't tell them no, they're not in trouble. They didn't do it wrong. I'm just going to swap it for you. Yeah.
Okay.
And because, there are a couple things about cardboard. It's very hard to digest. It can make them sick. It can turn into a clump in their intestines. So I watch very closely that they don't ingest it. Swallowing it's bad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Alyssa.
Hi, this is
Hi.
amazing information. I love it. And
Yay.
I think my question I might be asking the wrong question. I'm not
Okay.
sure how to unpack this, and maybe the key is preventing it. But I'm just wondering, with one of my dogs, who gets over threshold very quickly when we're out on walks.
Okay.
It's hard for me to figure out how gradually to desensitize him to things. Some days
Yeah.
it goes better than others. But so one problem that we've encountered is when he's over threshold, and it can happen very quickly or unexpectedly, when, we think a whole area is clear and all of a sudden, I don't know, there's someone from a distance or a little too close. But when he gets over threshold and I'm not always able to anticipate or prevent that, he, with a long lead or any lead that's, a little bit of space, which he loves, he'll immediately start chewing the leash if it's chewable. And
Yep.
so I'm just wondering, how do you prevent that? How do you redirect it? I've tried all kinds of what I think is enrichment for him according to his reactions before walks, anything to kind of mentally get him engaged. So maybe there's a little less energy to do that beforehand. I've never been able to figure out the best approach, but I'm not sure what part of this I need to deal with.
Unfortunately, in that moment when he's had an emotional spike because he's triggered, that enrichment activity ahead of time isn't going to solve that. So there are a couple things to consider. When you get surprised and he goes into trigger, the number one resolution is to increase the distance and get away from the trigger. That's the solution. And we can do all kinds of things, but just get distance. That's the first thing you do. There are some things we can do to make sure that he doesn't bite through the leash for safety. What he's doing by grabbing the leash is he's frustrated. So he's exhibiting his frustration. And so he's grabbing the leash and biting it. And if you choose through it, you've lost your dog. In other words, he's either running towards that dog or away from that dog. So we want to make sure there's some safety and security. And I don't want to go that direction in this conversation, but Alyssa, email me and I've got some things I can send you that'll help you with that. There's some tricks, okay, very easy tricks just to keep the dog safe and secure. Awesome. And it's not like prong collars. It's not any of that. It's you alter the leash a little bit and it keeps it so he can't bite through it. But here's my biggest advice. If that's happening, you need to go on walks where you are at a time of day. There's the least opportunities for that to happen, which you're probably already doing. And that work with somebody on reactivity in general, because he's at a place where he needs his emotions to be managed. And anytime he's triggered, the first thing you think of is just get away. And that's what he needs. That's what he's asking for when he's grabbing that leash. So that's the purpose of the leash grab.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you betcha. And remember, email me at info@cspotbehave. And also check in with your team because the behavior team with GRR is phenomenal. I know they have the answers for this stuff too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet. Lena, is that your hand again or did I miss you? You're good? Okay, cool. Let me see. Anybody else? All right, let's move forward. I think the only reason why I included this is because this is a lot of information. It can feel overwhelming. So it's a lot of information on the screen. It looks like a lot of enrichment items and you can be like, hey, I don't know how much to grab. I want you to think of enrichment in this very simple way. If you break enrichment down to it's intellectually or problem solving, okay, it's physically enriching. It's a little different than exercise. Okay, physically enrichment is just getting moving around, getting some moving. Okay, it's not running where you're getting intensity. Okay, so it's you're working out their brain, you're giving them kind of a little bit of movement, you're dealing with some social interaction between you and your dog. Doesn't have to be social with anybody but you. It tickles their senses. Could be anything: visual, listening, could be smell, and you're also tickling their taste with nutrition. So you can really break it down to: you're teasing their brain, you're moving their body, you're interacting with them, or you're engaging their senses. See how easy that is? It takes that whole big old list of enrichment down to, can I offer something that, maybe my dog enjoys sniffing, and I've done a sensory enrichment. Yes, I will talk about co-regulation. Thank you so much for asking that, Mona. It has been brought up sometimes in the other conversations that we've had. Co-regulation with your dog is this, and you probably will really love this. Lie down on the couch, snuggle with your dog, purposefully deep breathe, and watch your dog begin to breathe with you. And if you need to do long, slow strokes, like on the chest, in their vagal nerve, section area, or on their neck, and get them to relax. This also sounds a whole lot like, for me, reading my book with a cup of tea and snuggling my dog. That's co-regulation. But what it is that you're matching breathing and slowing down breathing together. And it's a lot like, skin on skin time with a baby. It's the same idea. So it's getting them to deep breathe and regulate their system. Doesn't that sound nice? I pick that all the time. Hey, we have co-regulation time. It's enriching. Come snuggle with me, which is delightful, which is both social. Yeah.
Good. Now that you described that, Rocky is right at about 9 months old. And maybe I'm not picking the best times, or I don't know, but sometimes it's like, we don't have snuggle time yet.
Okay. Yeah, because he's excited. Yeah.
And but when I do, most of the time when I do try to sit with them or do some long petting, it don't get very far before he starts to try to mouth and bite and stuff like that. And I figure he's overstimulated at that point. I don't know. That's all I can think of.
Yes. So co-regulation doesn't require touch. You can just sit together. You can talk to him. Talk to him might wind him up. Touching him might wind him up. So just sitting together and observing can help with co-regulation as well. Anytime that he has decided he's going to flop down and lie down, you can actually just look at him and talk to him softly, and then see if you can match breathing. And that is co-regulating. And I bet for Rocky, there's that point where if you say too much, he gets excited. If you touch too much, he gets excited. So that'll calm down a bit as he gets older. And you can try it at times where he's more likely to be sleepy, and that'll help. Like kind of cheat by catching him when he's sleepy. Kind of like you do with a toddler. Trying to hug a toddler, it's hard. They don't want to be hugged. But when they're sleepy, they do, Good comment. All right. So these are how these two pieces fit together. Socialization is how humans shape dogs so that dogs adapt to human cultures and spaces. That's socialization. Enrichment is how humans provide outlets for dogs' natural, species-typical behaviors, what dogs do. They fit together to build a bridge and remedy how dogs get stressed in this world that really isn't built for them. And if you put those together, when you're raising a dog, you're going to have a very confident, calm dog that manages novelty and surprises and can handle their own regulation. If you have a dog that has passed the critical period of being a puppy with you, by providing structured socialization and structured enrichment, you can teach them how to do those things. So that's where the human provides the opportunities to adapt and the opportunities to have outlets. And that's the end of the big content part. Do you have any questions about that before I move to something I'm going to send via email to you guys, or I think Michelle will also send you a link. Okay. So now what? Well, I'm going to send you set up a really link to a really short PDF, and I think it is here. Now that link is live. This PDF has a very quick start, and what it does is it gives you an opportunity to think about what does my dog already find enriching, help you assess kind of how are they socializing and what can I do better or how can I help them? And it helps you set up a weekly plan if you want to kind of do a scramble of how can I do some enrichment with my dog and keep track of what you've tried and what works better. So it's a very thin little worksheet that has some resources in it for you. I'll pop it up here in a second, but the gist of it is, and I want you to be really clear on this, I'm a high school teacher by trade. It's not graded. It's not a report. You're not going to turn it in, but it is a way for now that you have this information to go, okay, I'm looking at my dog. How do I apply all this to my dog? And it gives you some things you can, some paper you can print out and stick on the fridge and write down what you're trying so that you have a little bit more visibility to your efforts and you can go back and be more efficient with it. So I'm going to see if I can share the screen on that. Let me just flip over to it real quick. Yeah, that's it. Let me share this tab instead. And I'm not going to go over it blow by blow because honestly, that'd be a little bit boring for you. But the gist of this is you're going to have a couple things you could print out if you wanted to try them to figure out what enrichment types your dog likes, a planning grid for like over a week, what you would use throughout the days of the week, and not to go gangbusters. Like don't go try to do 6 enrichment items a day. Start with one. And then looking at, did my dog like that? And if they did, do it again. Or how would I change that? And so you have a way to set some goals for yourself and track those. And I have the sensory stuff here for you so you can remind yourself of what we've talked about. You don't have to go and download the video to see it again, but you can make an inventory of what your dog does. And I have a sample there when you try it. Here's a sample planner. And this one, I have something in every slot so you could see an example. Do not think that on Monday, by any means, I do 5 enrichment items per dog in my household. Forget it. I do 1, maybe 2, and all the dogs do the same thing. Okay, that it is not a big complicated process, but I have a little planner there for you. And I have a daily log that you could stick on the fridge if you'd like to, and an example of how to fill that out. And then some thoughts, some things like to think about. How would I change? What would I change? And then resources for you, a little glossary and some books if you'd like to read, and some links for you, some things you can find on the web and also on our website at C-Spot Behave. So that's available to you. And if you have questions about it, you can always email us at info@cspotbehave if you'd like to have more information. So that is available to everybody for download, and the link will be sent out to you. And this link is live to it. So if you do want to link to the video, you can. So here's the big thank you, because I can't tell you how much I love doing this. This is really the most fun in my month. I am so excited that Michelle put trust in us to do these presentations and to spend time talking to you. Every time I get information that I think, wow, that's going to help me be a better trainer from you and your stories. And it's just a great thing to connect. If you need help with your dog, your own dog, please holler. We're here to help you. And I just want to put a plug in again for how good Gold Ribbon Rescue is and how good your volunteer teams are, your behavior team, your medical team are. And so be sure to reach out to them. My quote for this particular experience is that we can't suppress their dog natural behaviors. They will always find an outlet, whether we approve of it or not. I think that is proof in the pudding. If you have a dog, you will see it come out somewhere. Right. And so I'm just going to ask you if you'd like to come back next month. Michelle sent out the information, and I'm going to open the floor to questions. And the questions can be about your specific dog, or it can be, wonderings, what if. Thank you, Jolynn. I appreciate it. Yeah, share info, share questions.
The interesting thing with for me, and I think just for Gold Ribbon kind of as a whole, we didn't really, it's only been, and all the members of our training team are on, and they've been around for a long time, but so they can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not even been that long that we've really been talking about enrichment. You know, I say that long, it's been, you know, maybe the last 5-6 years or so. A lot of us were doing it. We didn't really know that that's kind of what it was called.
Cool.
You know, and so, I mean, I have boxes on a shelf in my closet. I've bought a million things and tried them, and my dogs didn't like it. So I love that there are places that you can rent and try different things. But I think it's also important too, to, like you said, you don't really buy stuff. There's stuff around the house. There's so many things that you can do. We don't want to ask our fosters and our adopters to have to go out and stock up on Amazon. And there's so many opportunities of little things that you can do that go a long way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all consuming of your day. A little bit goes a long way. Can you just like reference that? Like, I always kind of say, you know, use it in increments of like, you know, 2 or 3 10-minute sessions a day is even better than going out and throwing the ball for 40 minutes.
Absolutely. You know, throwing the ball is very different. Throwing ball is taking your dog to the gym and having them do reps. That's what it is. You are exercising your dog, and you're building a certain physical movement pattern.
You're
That's what
building
you're
an
doing.
athlete is what you're doing.
Absolutely. And if you have, oh my gosh, and if you have a dog that you know, is obsessive, then yeah, you are building a faster dog that is going to be more obsessive. And so enrichment actually slows the dog down and makes them more purposeful. And I flipped this back up on here because I wanted to show you that, you know, a lot of times, you know, I have this stuff, but I'm looking to see what you actually have to buy. You know, I have on here puzzle toy, but many of these things like treat hide literally means you put the dog in another room and you take kibble and you hide it behind like the legs of your couch and on places they can sniff, and you go hide it all over the room, and then you let them in the room and they go find the kibble. That didn't cost a thing because you were already going to give them that kibble. So most of these things that are in here are ones that you can do without spending any additional money. And there are lots of lists on the internet that are there too. So I think it's really important. Don't spend a lot of money. And these activities, like you said, Michelle, these are, you know, a few minutes. You aren't spending 25, 30 minutes with these activities because your dog will get bored, and sometimes they get frustrated. And so if you find that when you're doing an enrichment game and your dog is not getting, you know, not enjoying it, stop. Or if they're getting frustrated, stop. This is supposed to be fun. And that's why I asked the question, who decides if it's fun or if it's actually an enrichment is the dog. So if you try, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do a scent ID game. I'm going to have them sniff things out. And your dog is like, ho hum. Well, then stop, you know, go throw the ball and then come up with something the next day. And the whole purpose of this is interaction with you in ways that your dog finds enjoyable, that gives them that opportunity to have outlets for natural doggy things to do. Good point, Michelle.
Thank you. You know, we used to say years ago, a tired dog is a happy dog. But not necessarily. A tired dog might be an overstimulated dog.
Yeah, or frustrated dog. Yeah, absolutely. Mona, join in.
Oh, okay. My microphone's on.
There we go.
Just real quick. I think, Michelle, I just want to make sure I'm not missing it, or, well, I am missing it one way or the other. Some of the resources from past presentations, where do I find them, or
I'll send you
how
that
do I get them?
I'll send you the link, Mona.
Okay. All right.
If anybody else
last
needs
time,
that, send me an email. My email is michelle@grr-tx.com.
Yeah, last time, oh shoot, your partner, there
Diane,
at C-Spot, Diane, thank you. Yeah, she mentioned some parks or places where she goes and hikes a little bit with her dogs, and I was looking forward to that, and I was like, I haven't found it, haven't seen it.
You know,
so.
and that's my fault. She did send me that, and I haven't sent it out. So I have no good excuse other than I totally forgot. So, but
Yeah.
Diane, I did ask her for that and she did send it. So it's on me.
You know what
but-
I'll do is I'll also drop it in this folder as well. So it'll
Okay.
be in the enrichment folder as well. So go ahead and send it out, but I'll stick it there so people will be able to find it too. So we'll have it
Okay.
in a couple places. Thank you for bringing that up, Mona. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I figured I didn't get on a list, or I just wasn't catching where I was supposed to go for it or something. So, but, you know, one of the, and this may not be socialization enrichment things, but one of the things I'm finding more frustrating at the moment, okay, I'm going to mention two, but the first one is I try to open the door to let the dog run out and go take care of business at least, but he just will not go out that door if I don't go out there, especially first, and kind of, you know, I have to go out first and then he may come out. I have to act like I'm shutting the door before he comes out and all of that. And then finally he'll think, oh, she's shutting the door with me on the inside and her on the outside. So I'll go ahead and go outside now. And I'm like, can we just get you a little more excited to go out?
So you've hit on something that's really interesting, is that actually your dog, you have a particular role. A lot of people do with their dogs, in that you are out there making sure outside is safe before he goes out. And so that's your job, unfortunately. And so that's part of what he's asking you to do, is go out and make sure everything's safe. And then he might or might not come out. Make the doorway a game. Do enrichment in the doorway. No, not about the door. Not we're going over the threshold games, but like, hey, I'm going to play touch with you where you come and touch my hand. Or we're going to do shredding right by the door. And then we're going to do shredding with the door open. Then we're going to do shredding just on the other side of the door. Like do things around the door that aren't about the door. And that will help him become more acquainted with that without it being about you checking out if the monsters are gone. And then what's happening when you shut the door and he's still inside and you're outside, and he goes, okay, I'm coming out. It's like, well, I don't want to be separated. Like, I don't want to go out there until you've made sure there's nothing scary, but it's worse to be separated. So start treating the door and the doorway as a place we do fun things. Okay. So you don't have to have the door open for a lot of it. You can just do it right next to it on both sides. And then at some point have the door open. That can help a lot.
Is there any difference? Because I do have a second dog now. That's, and that the one that I'm going to say is my second dog is really my first dog. I had her first, but she bolts out the door, and so
okay.
a lot of times it looks like she's bolting out the door to make sure things are safe for me, and maybe now what I'm calling the puppy that's bigger than her. But I mean, does anything change with that?
Can I ask if he ever experienced being mowed down by her?
Oh, maybe as a puppy. I mean, maybe as a smaller puppy, maybe. I don't remember specifically.
Yeah, so I'd be willing to bet that he was adequately, quote, punished for being in the path of the door, and and still remembers that. Yeah. And so there are a couple things. Regulate who goes in and out the door calmly, right? Let her go every time, her first, she goes out. Make a big deal. You go out, right? And then, work again with making the door less scary, but make sure she goes out and he can see it, so he's not expecting to be run over. He may not have the cognitive, that's why I don't like the door. He may not know that, but I've seen it a lot with dogs where they've been run over in the path of the door. They're like, the door bites. They actually have a memory that that's an unpleasant place to be. And so build that as a pleasant place to be, but also make sure that he doesn't encounter being run down by her by getting her through there first.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that sounds like that was just all one thing. The other thing that I have a lot of here lately is like my first dog, who's the older dog, the one that likes to run out the door fast and everything. She can be calm, laying on the couch, nearly acting like she's going to fall asleep. And this puppy, and once again, it's a 60 some odd pound puppy, will just go over and just like start barking in her face. And a lot of times I think it's when she maybe needs to go outside or something. I don't know. That's what I've felt a little bit. So just by watching it, but at the very least, it's like, to me, it's rude and it's barking in her face. And it's like, get up, I want to play, or get up, I want to go outside, get up, just get up and do anything because I want to be up and around, you know?
Well, I would say I'm giggling because the breadth, one, puppies, right? Am I right? Puppies. But the other part of it is video that when you have time. And then also start keeping a little log of time of day or activities that are going on before that, because there may be a pattern there that tells us something about her health, and he's smelling it. Like you said, maybe she needs to go out. It could be, I'm bored and you must entertain me. It could be that. But I think it'd be interesting to see how, is there a pattern? Is there a relationship to what he's doing beforehand, before she falls asleep, what she's doing before she falls asleep, and whether or not it is related to her health or just his boredom. And I think you have to kind of untangle that a little bit more before there's a clear answer. But my inclination is, I'm bored. And since you're asleep, I can actually be obnoxious to you. If you're fully awake, I don't dare be obnoxious to you. So that's usually what happens with puppies, is they wait till the adult is really, low key, and they get obnoxious then. But I think more information's needed, but be a sleuth and gather that.
Okay. Yeah. It just seems like she's just relaxed and chilled, and he goes over and rough, and he's loud. Yep. He's really loud.
Yeah.
And, and she ends up getting up, she ends up getting up, and most of the time she either walks to the door or walks to me and is like, do something.
Yep. Do something. Yep. And what I would say, once you gather some information and you think, I don't really see a pattern here, I think he's just bored. Then what you do is you become the referee and you get a recall, and he's not allowed to do that. You just have to call him away, and don't let him do that. It's not polite. And in dog world, it's really, he's being a jerk. And so if it's not something we should be concerned about, then he needs the referee called mom to go in and make him do something else. Give him something else to do. Giving him an enrichment item. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet. Alyssa.
Have a rookie question for you.
Okay.
I was just wondering, what is the difference between a decompression walk and a sniffari?
Nothing. Sniffari's cooler. It sounds cooler.
Oh,
Decompression walk.
Great. I was just curious.
Decompression walk came with my certification, so it's a more expensive word. That's about it. That's not a rookie question at all. That's a smart question.
Oh, I thought maybe one is off leash, and another. Okay, thank you.
You're a smarty. That was well done. Good question. Rox, what you got?
Yeah, so I wanted to circle back. I was writing something, so I wouldn't forget to mention it later on at the end of the presentation. I recall you majored in French.
I do. I have
right?
French. Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I majored in sarcasm, and unfortunately, so did my children.
Excellent.
They're about to be 15 and 17, and when they first watched the last training session, we watched it together with my husband at the end, because I raised my hand or asked a question or whatever, commented, and at the end they're like, "Wow, Mom, what a teacher's pet." And I was like, "What? What?" Oh, I was asking. I mean, that's how you learn. I'm like, don't you ask your teacher questions? And they're like,
Teenagers.
no, who does that?
Right?
Anyways, on the slide where you're describing the dog park,
Mhm.
it was I thought it was funny because it sounded like a child's playground, like, you know, kids out
Yes.
on the corners, out in the perimeter. You know, there's some bullying, there's some all kinds of stuff going on. I just kind of thought that was kind of interesting.
It is, and
Yeah.
if you go to big playgrounds, you've got the moms who are talking, and they've got their Starbucks cups, and they're not paying
You're not
attention
paying
at all.
attention to what's going on.
Same
Yes,
difference, yeah.
same thing. Also, when I first heard you say that dog parks are not the best places, you're a bit of a dream crusher for me, Debbie.
I'm so sorry.
I was like, what? I thought dog park, you're telling me the world is square. I thought dog parks are like this happy place and dogs get along, and, you know, dogs are supposed to be, they're packs by nature. So why is the dog park not that? Like, he just blew my mind. It just-
Yeah.
and then when you explain the reasons why, it just completely makes sense. It
And
completely makes
Rox,
sense.
I think one of the coolest things about it is that the science of dogs being a pack animal has been disproven for 30 years now, and we still think it's right. The man who came up with the pack hierarchy theory for dogs has spent his entire scientific career trying to take it back.
What?
Yes,
Wow.
his name is Daniel Meck, and he
Hmm.
studied captive wolves. So captive wolves can't do natural behaviors, right? Because they're in captivity.
Right.
And captive wolves formed these dysfunctional packs that had these hierarchies, alpha, beta, etc.
Yeah. That's.
And he
yeah.
said, this is how wolves behave. And they don't. This is how dysfunctional wolves. It'd be kind of like saying, let's study a mental hospital and assume all humans have all of these mental systems as normal, right?
Oh, interesting.
They don't.
Hmm.
And then the extrapolation that dogs are a pack animal are also false. And so all of this idea that dogs would rather be in pack situations and that they have hierarchies, it's all scientifically untrue.
Hmm.
And we're all, you know, what? And I mean, 30 years and people are still going, you know, you need to be the alpha. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That I see.
Yep.
There's always
Crazy.
something new to learn every day. And I don't know where the term socialization came from, because for me that's so deceiving. Like
It
when
is.
on one of the first presentations, there was like a pie chart, and it's like what socialization is and what it isn't. And again, my mind.
Wow.
Who came up with that term? Because I kind of feel like it should be more like social tolerance, because it's all
It
about
is.
tolerating the environment that they're
Right.
in,
And
like,
I
or something.
I think what it is that, you know, to take a human or any other animal and indoctrinate them into how a society works is to socialize them, right? To make them work in that society. This is an ethological term, unlike the highest academic nerdy way possible.
Yeah.
And so when you bring it down into conversational, the first people do, oh, social, party, right? We hang out. We're
Yeah,
being
exactly.
social.
Dog
Yeah.
parks, play dates, like
Exactly.
that's the first thing that comes to
Yeah.
mind.
So
Yeah.
both of these terms, the socialization and enrichment, are really misplaced in our conversation about dogs. We need better terms for them, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why people come up with things like sniffari instead of decompression. Makes more sense. It fits. I think for enrichment, if we said brain games, you see a lot of people selling brain games.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a better way to package it. And socialization, really, it's a lot. You'll start seeing people package it as a confident dog, a calm dog.
Yeah.
And so you see that packaging around it instead of socialization. So it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Great comments. I appreciate it. The floor is still open. I see. And, you know, back to the socialization, I do think back to my
Kelly have
grandmother
her hand
in East
raised?
Texas. Yep. I'm sorry, Mona. Go. So with socialization, I think back to my grandmother in East Texas, where it was like, you're going to be cotillion.
Kelly's
So you have to learn how to do it. You have to learn how to be a social, polite human being. And that's where that comes from for me too. You have to be a young lady. That's how dogs have to be polite dogs.
Well, and the one thing that I always say, and there's a couple, I don't know if they're still on, but we have a matchmaker team within Gold
Mhm.
Ribbon. So we're the ones that match the dogs to the family. And one of the first things I tell them is, one thing I can guarantee you is the dog knows how to be a dog. They're going to know how to dig, bark, try to get stuff off the counters, run out the door, pull on a leash. You have to teach them how to live in your world, because they're not going to know that. And your world's going to be different than the world they just came from. And so these type of classes and people asking all these questions and sharing their stories, or I don't know if class is the right word. To me, I feel like it's a class because I'm always learning. But,
That's nice.
I think that it really does a good job to see, like you said earlier, how many of the Gold Ribbon people, and that's why we built this community, and our Gold Ribbon people are so aligned with the philosophies that we have, and they want to do more and better for their dogs.
Yep.
And they want to invest the time and the energy to make sure they have the best dogs they have. So I love hearing all these questions and people asking and people wanting to soak up the information. And all these people have, I think everybody on this call has adopted a dog from Gold Ribbon, at least one. And so if you've only adopted one, we know you'll come back and adopt your second one when the time is right.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a credit to your organization and to the volunteers and the love and the work that's been done to make this just it's smooth, and everybody's got the same vision. I just love it. It's great to work with you guys. Love, love, love it.
Well, we appreciate that. We love working with you too. And I continue to hear people say, and that's what I say, no matter how much you think you know, you'll learn something. I promise.
Kelly, your hand went up, and then somebody's, and I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. It went so fast. Hi,
Karen.
Kelly.
That's okay. Hi, I had a question. It's about a specific, I have trouble with recall. I mean, my dog, I adopted my dog, and she had 3 years on attached to a tree and no anything. She is amazing and wonderful, but recall is something I need some help with. Just some tips and tricks and training. What would be like best for that? Is it a long line? Treats?
Tell me how recall goes for you now.
Well, if she is distracted by anything, I'm ignored.
Okay. So then except that this is going to be kind of pat answers, because I don't know your dogs and you real well. So if I say stuff you're like, I know that, I'll dig deeper for you. But the gist of it is, recall is you have to be a better party than whatever it is your dog's doing. Okay. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go back to my East Texas again. My name is Deborah Louise. Okay. So if my grandmother would call Deborah or Debbie, yes, ma'am. Okay. If I heard Deborah Louise, oh no. I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Right.
Because I know what's going to happen there. Right. And then I would either develop selective hearing, didn't hear you, right? Or I would find a way to go another way. And I think a lot of times dogs, they are listening for what's going to happen at the end of that request, right? And so if you're asking, come away from the squirrel, this is the party, I'm not going, right? And so really it's a question of economics. If I'm being paid here, I've got to be paid better here. Has to be consistent. And there are also some other things, the name. So if my grandmother called me Deborah Louise, no matter what, I'd develop an immunity to it and it wouldn't matter. Okay. And also I would stop hearing my name at all. So your cue to call your dog back needs to be fairly novel, and you don't use it for other stuff. So calling your dog by name is going to be hit and miss, because you say your dog's name all the time, right? A lot of us do things like come here, come, come over here, get over here, come. I said, come, get here, right? And so, well,
Right.
which do you want me to do? This, you don't have a
Mhm.
clean cue, right? And they might have a poison cue. Maybe the people they were with before used the word come. It didn't mean good things, or didn't mean enough good things at all. And so now that
Right.
word is poison. So you may want to try a new word that you introduce with something amazing. Okay. So that
Mhm.
word means, even if she's like 3 feet from you, what's your dog's name?
Kenzie.
Okay. So she's 3 feet for you. You say her name lightly, and she
Mhm.
goes, "Mm," and you offer her that yummy. Okay.
Okay.
Then you switch. You just say, almost a whisper, the new retrieve, come back to me word. Okay. Some
Mhm.
people say here. Some people say buy me. You could say broccoli. It wouldn't matter. It's just whatever word to your dog means, I can't believe I just got, dried liver, whatever it is.
Right.
So you whisper the word. Mine for my dogs is here, because I destroyed come before I had a whole idea about how to train dogs. So I'll go here, and my dog goes, because that means good stuff's happening. So if you have to yell it, that means you are not, your
Right.
word doesn't mean it's good stuff. So pick something that really means good things are happening, because you
Okay.
backed it up. And
Right.
then work the distance backwards. So I'm asking you to pay attention to me close, and I'm rewarding it. And then I'm going to increase the distance between us and ask you to come back, and then increase the distance over time. So don't wait till your dog's 50 yards and ask her to come
Right.
back. Start at
Mhm.
3 feet in the house and keep
Okay.
going. Okay. The other thing is, don't use the recall word if you know they're not going to come back.
Okay.
Go get your dog.
Mhm.
Okay. Because every time they practice not coming back to you, it pulls
Mhm.
apart the training.
Yeah.
So they're at the fence screaming at a squirrel, and you know that's not going to happen. Don't
Mhm.
waste the cue. Go get the dog until your training has become successful.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are the basics of creating a good recall. Use a long line to have the distance game. If you think your dog's going to get bored and just wander away, end the game. Okay. So don't make learning to come back boring or forced, because they're going to learn this word means I have to do something,
Mhm.
right? It has to be, they hear that word and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm there. How I taught my, oh gosh, he was a border collie and border collie and wiener dog mix. He was a funny dog. I lived on a lot of property, and I would get him to come back with a whistle because I couldn't yell far enough. But I trained him with whistle and scrambled eggs and ham. Okay. So he knew he didn't get scrambled eggs and ham any other time in his life until he came back for that whistle. And we started with that. So I could get to the point where he was miles away and I'd whistle on the ranch and he came running because he knew
Okay.
that thing was going to happen. That's scrambled eggs and ham. After he was great at it, I didn't have to do that every time. I could do it randomly and less over time. And then every once in a while, he'd get home and there'd be scrambled eggs and ham randomly. He'd be like, jackpot, right? So make it worth it. If it's worth it, they'll come back.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I
If you're
appreciate
frustrated,
that.
you're frustrated, don't do it. Don't try
No.
to, no, doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, she'll win. So
Yeah, always, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the worst. You're like, not only am I frustrated, the dog won. Now I'm frustrated.
Exactly.
I didn't see anyone's hand up, but I know they flashed up. So is there
Kathy.
anybody missed? Kathy, thank
Kathy.
you.
Yeah. So I think I heard you say don't use the dog's name, just use the command.
Yes.
Okay. What if you have more than one dog, but you're only trying to get one?
That's actually really complicated training. So if you're like you've got 2 dogs at a fence, you only want one back. Is that what you're saying? Like you've got,
Probably in that situation, I want them both back.
Okay.
But I don't know if we're in the house and I don't know, Bruce has a burr on his tail, I've noticed, and I want him to come over here so I can take it off. And I don't really, Eddie doesn't need to come over for that.
you can begin to pair it with the name. and say, because with my dogs, when I'm handing out medicine, I'll say, Rooster, come, and then he knows, and the other dog knows she's not going to come, so that you can work that out. But you have to treat the recall word first and then pair it with their name after they've got it.
Okay. Got
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great question. Who'd I miss? Floor is
I'll
open.
just say that I'm thankful for these presentations, classes,
Thank you.
whatever you want to call them, because with a puppy, even when it was small and cute, and now a large puppy, I've gotten to where, and I'm nowhere near as frustrated now as I was before, but
Wow.
I would
good for
hit
you. That's great.
I would hit a big frustration level and, say all kinds of things that, I'm glad nobody else other than me and my dogs are hearing, and thankfully they don't understand. But then when I get on one of these classes and listen and get some support, I guess, from how this happens, my frustration level comes down, and I'm like, okay, I can keep trying.
I'm so glad
And
when
so-
that's a huge compliment. Thank you. And I'm so glad, because puppies are not for the weak. I would rather have a human child than a puppy, because you can't put human children in crates. There are so many things you can't do to human children that you can help you raise the puppies. So more power to you. That is a hard job. And thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate y'all.
Well, thank you too, Debbie. I do want to just let everybody know the August webinar I'm so excited for is leash walking and reactivity. And so that's one that I have a highly reactive dog that I've been working with for 6 years. So I know I'll learn some new tips then too, even though it's been something I deal with on a daily basis. But we'll start advertising that tomorrow. Our newsletter goes out on Friday, so it'll be in the newsletter and you guys can start signing up for that. But, and then we have this, like I said, the calendar's already all planned out. So, except for November and December, the webinars are always going to be the last Wednesday of the month. Debbie, I don't know if we've figured out the dates for November or December yet, but we'll get there.
Let's sit down and figure that out. Yeah.
The last Wednesdays are right at Christmas and New Year's, so we're not doing those. But mark your calendars for the last Wednesday of August for leash walking and reactivity. I've already heard several comments and questions about that tonight, so I know a lot of people will benefit from that.
It's a big one, and I have a feeling that we'll get done and go, we need about 4 more of those.
Right.
Yeah. So, and bring questions, because I think that's one that we could address. If we're addressing one person's case, we'll probably be addressing half the room,
Yeah.
and do that.
I'm going to try something a little bit different for that, just to see, and ask people to send questions in advance.
Oh, yeah.
And then that way we can, I'll share those with you beforehand. So there's some things that you can, I haven't done that yet with the others, but I'm going to try that with this next one, because I think the next one, there's so much in all of them, but that one's a big one.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And so if anybody, you guys, my email, Michelle@grr-tx.com. It's super simple. So, or you can always email training@grr-tx.com, and all of the training coordinators will see that. So think of your questions regarding those 2 things, leash walking and reactivity, and start sending us those. No such thing as a dumb question.
And I think we may be doing it a little bit differently, because I think Diane might be doing some demo with Quinn on it as well. So she might be showing some things to do, which will be pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. So this one will be a little bit, we'll go for it on it. We'll do some strange things.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and I had a lot of fun tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Debbie. We really appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.